Dog, they come across Sam accompanied by two blanks, so Gary pulls her into the toilet to explain what is happening, that the whole town had been taken over by robots full of blue blood, and considering Gary is not the most trustworthy person, she does not believe a word he is saying. As she is outside smoking a cigarette with her two friends, Gary charges and knocks them to the ground. He then chokes one of them and pulls out her head and smashes it on the ground. The other attack him and the two gang up on him, almost overpowering him, but he throws them against the fence. But before they get a chance to escape, one of the robots appears and begins attacking them, but Steve comes and they manage to hold it down and remove its head. So they quickly leave and head towards the 8th pub called the Mermaid, and are very surprised to see it had been converted to a nightclub, full of these robots all dancing in unison. 3 underage-looking girls wearing school uniforms start dancing while approaching the boys, and this proves to be too hard to resist, as they totally forget themselves and fully give themselves to the girls. Steve is pulled from the club by old man Basil, who is willing to tell him the truth. It turns out, aliens arrived on the planet in form of a shooting star, then slowly by slowly, people started to change. The aliens first replaced people of influence, trying to peacefully seduce the others into joining them willingly. They usually get people's DNA through their body fluids like sweat and saliva, through kissing and other forms of intimacy. He is warned as the blanks look exactly like humans and are also given selective memory. Old man Basil then quickly disappears and tells Steve to help his friends before it is too late, so Steve quickly goes and pulls his friends away from the blanks, and they all leave the Mermaid. Although they are too drunk to notice, Oliver starts acting funny as if he had been replaced. He becomes more energetic than usual and is also very sober for a man who had taken 8 pints of beer. All except for Andrew, who notices this strange behavior. So when they sit down in the beehive, Andrew takes an empty bottle and smacks him on the head, and to everyone's surprise, his head splits in half and his head is completely empty. At this point, all the blanks stand up with their mouths and eyes glowing and declare they will forcefully replace them. But Andrew had had enough of them. He takes 2 bar stools and when they attack, he fights back, smashing and knocking their heads off, and it quickly turns into a full-blown war. Even Oliver joins in, trying to subdue them, but he is knocked away by Gary. But the more they beat and decapitate the blanks, the more the blanks regenerate and attack again, forcing Gary to take Sam's hand and lead her upstairs trying to escape. They meet 2 more but they easily deal with them and escape through the window. Gary stupidly jumps over the edge and lands on her car, almost completely damaging it. He puts her inside the car and tells her to leave town before things get even worse, and as she drives off, more blanks appear from every direction, forcing him to run through the fields heading to the King's Head, where he finds his 3 friends waiting for him. And due to the earlier incident with their friend Oliver, none of them trust each other, so they force everyone to show something to prove they are still human. Steve shows his backside where Gary had stabbed him with a broken bottle when they were still teenagers. Then Peter shows a scar from when a drunk Gary had run him over with a car, and for Andrew, he shows his crooked finger from when they were playing the knife game and a drunk Gary stabbed him, proving he is also human. But when Gary's turn comes, he repeatedly hits his head against the wall without his head popping off, proving he was still human and still very stupid. Suddenly, they hear noises from outside as the blanks were converging towards their location, forcing them to run from the back and into the woods. But as Peter is catching his breath, his high school bully appears and distracts him, allowing the other blanks to catch up and completely surround him. And by the time his 3 friends realize it, it is already too late as Peter had been already overpowered. Andrew and Steve had sobered enough to realize it is time to leave, and when Gary suggests they should head to the next pub in the list, an angry Andrew punches him, knocking him out, and carries him on his back as they try to navigate the robot-filled streets of Newton Haven. But when they see a gigantic robot looking for them, they are forced to enter into the nearest building, which happens to be the 10th pub on their list, the King's Head. Gary wakes up and immediately pours himself a glass. He then removes and throws them his car keys, and allows them to drive from the town using his car, which is outside. But for him, the Golden Mile was the only thing he had come close to accomplishing in his life. So he runs out determined to finish what he had started. Andrew could not leave his friend to deal with all the blanks by himself, so he also runs out of the pub chasing after him, trying to stop him. The blanks try to stop them, but they easily manage to maneuver past them, until they comes to the 10th pub, the hole in the wall. Andrew tries to fight off the blanks, but they are just too many. Luckily, Oliver drives Gary's car into the building, giving them a breathing space, but Gary was not ready to quit just yet, so he jumps through the window and heads directly towards the world's end. Andrew also jumps out and begins chasing after him. And once Gary gets inside the world's end, and holds a beer in his hand,